Good morning, everyone, and welcome to an actual prediction for Trump versus Biden. I realize that a lot of people were very unhappy with how I did my election night. There is a disclaimer at the beginning of the video for a very good reason. It's to highlight that it's not what I think would happen if the election were held today. It's based off of the scenario I outlined in the video, which in that case, the prediction would be accurate. However, this is for what I think would happen if the election were held today, or the Tuesday coming up. You know what I mean, right? So, because this is recorded on a Sunday. So, anyway, these are the states that I think would honestly be toss-ups. The ones highlighted in gold. So let's just go, starting with Florida. And anybody who's been paying attention to my swing state analysis and to my and who saw my video on the state voting trends and how each state has voted from both 1980 and 2000, where we get our current political map, we'll know that Florida has slightly trended red, but is definitely a true swing state as it's voted for the incumbent, as it's voted Republican twice, Democrat twice, and then Republican again. And it seems to be following a pattern of it votes for one party twice, then it flips to the other party, and then it flips back. And if this pattern holds, expect Democrats to carry it in 2024. But we'll see if the pattern holds or if it trends Republican or if it trends Democrat. I'm a little unsure because it's with the trend on this one because it's a swing state, but it does seem to like voting for incumbents. It voted for Bill Clinton in 1996, despite voting for H.W. Bush in 1992. And it has a tendency, and it tends to vote for incumbents anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and give this one to Donald Trump. We're going to go up to North Carolina before we get to Georgia. North Carolina is a turnout state. Both parties have a similarly sized base in the state, and it's really just about who can turn out their voters rather than who can get the more swing voters. So North Carolina is not exactly an elastic state, and I think Barack Obama winning in 2008 was a one-off, and I just don't see Biden being able to drive the African-American turnout. So we're going to go ahead and give that one to Donald Trump. And Georgia is essentially a more conservative version of North Carolina, and that would likely go to Donald Trump. So let's go up to Virginia. I currently live in this state, and I honestly see it as a state that is becoming more and more Democrat, especially because Northern Virginia keeps growing and that part of the state votes blue. Even though I currently live in the southwest part of Virginia, and when I say the southwest part, I'm about an hour west of Roanoke, so I'd say splitting difference between Roanoke and add another 30 minutes and you've got me going into Tennessee basically. So about an hour and a half to Tennessee. So that's the part of the state I currently live in, though I'm probably going to move at some point. I don't see Trump winning this state unless he greatly improves his popularity across the nation. And by the way, to look at his popularity, he's not doing as bad as people think. He's at 43%, a little bit above that, and that's likely to continue rising over the next couple of days. And by the way, this is an aggregate. This isn't one poll. And the aggregate takes polls, but it doesn't take the raw numbers. For example, this Rasmussen poll, while it immediately shows that Donald Trump is basically dead even in his approval rating, which if he was, that would be 100% he's getting reelected. the reality is Rasmussen is biased towards the Republicans, and so 538 decreases it before it decreases the Republican support and slightly decreases Democrat support because they overstate both parties. And it decreases the support. Essentially, it adjusts the support for each based off of the House effect for each pollster, and then it inputs it into the model. For example, Ipsos slightly biases towards the Democrats. It actually slightly biases towards both, increasing their support, but in this case, it must have been on the high end of 46, so not enough to bring it down below 46. And there's a slight bias towards the Democrats, so that's inputted. Marist slightly biases towards the Democrats. It actually seems it slightly biases towards not showing enough support for anyone. SurveyMonkey. And if you go back and you look at all the more polls, you'll see most of these are trending up for Donald Trump in recent days, so that shows he's doing fairly well. So we go back here, and taking that into account as well as how well the economy has been doing, the fundamentals are still good despite the recent tumble in the stock market. We're going to go up to New Hampshire. With his drug-infested den comment, I don't think Donald Trump can realistically win the state unless he's above 50% approval, despite New Hampshire being a very, very elastic swing state. And that is, both sides have a similar base, but there are a ton of swing voters in the state. In the state of Maine, I actually think Donald Trump is going to improve in the state enough to carry the 2nd Congressional District, or not the 2nd Congressional District, enough to carry the statewide vote, but that is such a close vote that I would expect that to be recount central, and I would expect that to... It's going to be a toss-up. I'm not entirely sure what's going to happen. I'm going to err on the side of the incumbent. I have stated many times that I tend to err on the side of the incumbent simply because that is a good risk to take in American politics. So let's go to Pennsylvania. Joe Biden is the favorite son of Pennsylvania. He is originally from Pennsylvania, I believe Scranton. And Trump won this state by about 70,000. I'm going to say he doesn't pick up as many swing voters as he did with a home son, essentially. I think he would win I think Joe Biden would win Pennsylvania very, very narrowly. But it would definitely showcase that the state is a true swing state and that Republicans can win it. Unlike a few years ago where Democrats said there is no way a Republican will ever win the state. Ohio, I'm putting that in the likely Trump column simply because he won it by almost 10 points in 2020. Same thing with, in 2016, sorry. And the same thing with Iowa, because Iowa voted more Republican than Texas. Now, the reason why I don't have Texas listed as a toss-up is I think that was just one really bad election for Donald Trump, and that Democrats were able to convince Texans to be sensible in many ways, and also Gary Johnson did extremely well. Without a significant third-party challenge, I think the Republicans are going to improve their margins. I think Donald Trump will improve his margins in many states because for a lot of libertarian voters, they voted Libertarian because they just didn't want to vote for Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton. But they would have been less likely to vote for Hillary Clinton. In two-party vote, most libertarians despise Democrats because Democrats actually view us libertarians as worse than Republicans. Which doesn't make any sense, but whatever. Moving on, let's go to Michigan, and I'm going to say that Joe Biden, if he picks Debbie Stabenow as his running mate, I'll go with his running mate from last night when I chose. He'll pick up Michigan. I think that's a reasonable assumption. Minnesota, same thing. He'll win that state simply because I don't think it's ready to turn in. Well, I think it's ready to turn in 2020, depending on who the Democrats nominate. If they nominate a California liberal, I think there is a very good chance Trump could win the state. But if they're nominating a more moderate Democrat like Joe Biden or Joe Manchin or Sherrod Brown, or a Democrat from the Midwest, I just don't think there is I don't think the Republicans will win it, but it will be within like 3 points still. Wisconsin. I'm going to leave this as a toss-up for now. Going on to Colorado, I think that would be Biden. Same thing with Nevada. We're going to go ahead and give this second congressional district in Nebraska to Trump as well. I think Obama winning it was a one-off. But anyway, Nevada and Colorado, I think those are states that Republicans can essentially kiss goodbye to unless, like in the scenario I posted last night, the economy is doing extremely well. So, Arizona, I don't think that's controversial to say that the Republicans are going to win it. Donald Trump will win it by like maybe 1 or 2. He won it by what? 4%, 3% in 2016. I think he'd win it by like 4 or 5. Incumbents tend to improve their margins. And I think he'd be just barely hang on in Wisconsin. It was a little more Republican than Pennsylvania. And it's been trending Republican anyway, along with the rest of the upper Midwest. So I think this is a reasonable prediction for the election. But don't confuse this as I don't think Biden doesn't have a chance. He has a very good chance. Any state in pink, in this lightest color of pink, except for maybe Arizona, is a state I could see him flipping. And depending on how well he campaigns, he might be able to pick up Ohio as well. So this is kind of my prediction. Any state in the light blue or the pink colors is one that I could foresee flipping, except for maybe New Hampshire. But I really could see any of these states flipping that are in the pink. And I'll go ahead and toss in Arizona in that. So yes, a very close election, and I would expect recount efforts in Wisconsin, North Carolina, Florida, Maine, and Arizona, just because the election could be flipped on one of those recounts. So anyway, that is my actual reasonable prediction. Not what I did in my election night, which, read the disclaimer, please. It's sad that I have to put in a disclaimer on every election night, and that I actually have to do that. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a nice day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.